Will Carson Beck lead Miami to the college football playoff this season? Managing editor of CaneSport, Matt Shodell, joins the show to preview Miami's 2025 season with Carson Beck as their starting quarterback. In the second half of the show, Alcorn State coach Leroy Frederick joins the show as well to react to Coach Prime's press conference at Big 12 Media Days, as well as to discuss Auburn fans being fed up with Hugh Freeze over his golf habit, as well as I'm going to break down why Russell Wilson and the Giants will play spoiler in the NFL this season. And also I'm going to break down why Coach Prime in Colorado will be making a massive mistake if they decide to start Julian Lewis week 1 against Georgia Tech. I'm going to break all of that down and much more here on the other side on Bailey Price Media Live. Welcome back to another edition of Bailey Price Media Live.
Bailey Price Media. I like it.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Thursday. Welcome back to another edition of Bailey Price Media Live. Today, I got a very, very special show for you. 2 special guests here. Man, I can't wait for the show. If you're watching, folks, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and become a member of the Bailey Price Media Army today. I can't thank you all enough for the support and all you guys tuning in. I appreciate you guys as we get closer to the football season. Man, I can't wait. Without further ado, let's go ahead and bring in our special guest to talk all things Miami Hurricanes football. Our main man, managing editor of CaneSport, Matt Shodell, joins the show. Matt, how you doing, my man? Happy Thursday. Thank you for joining.
Happy Thursday. No problem.
I appreciate you. Let's get right into it. I can't thank you enough for joining, brother. And let's go ahead and preview Miami's 2025 season. Let's get into it. Carson Beck takes over as starting quarterback, transfers down from Georgia after coming off a season-ending injury. Now Miami's paying him a pretty good amount of money to come down and become their starting quarterback. Matt, let me ask you, how do you feel about Carson Beck going into 2025 as Miami's starting quarterback?
I'm a numbers guy. I'm a truth guy, so to speak. A lot of Georgia people were happy to see him go, and good riddance, led the SEC with 12 interceptions. But when you sort of look inside the numbers, right, a year ago, he was the Heisman Trophy front runner at this time, coming off a great season at Georgia. Obviously, had a couple of, Bowers, McConkey had a lot to do with that. Good running game had a lot to do with that. A decent offensive line had a lot to do with that. Last year, you don't have McConkey, you don't have Bowers, you don't have a good offensive line, you don't have a good running game.
Right.
And his receiving core dropped the most yards of passes in Power 4. So you add it all up, and you can sort of say, well, it wasn't all on Carson Beck. And if at Miami he has the running game, he has the offensive line, I know he has that. But I'm not sure he has it the receivers, right? So if he has the receivers, he's going to be just fine. He'll look pretty similar to how he did, my guess is, a couple of years ago and be excellent. And if he doesn't have the receivers, then it's on Shannon Dawson to earn his money. I think he's making less than Carson Beck, quite a bit less than Carson Beck. But it'll be on him to make his money and figure out ways to get the ball to players in space. Maybe he's got to play a young guy like a Malachi Toney or just figure it out. There's definitely enough talent on this team to make Carson Beck great.
Definitely. And you brought up my next point, Malachi Toney. Obviously, can't wait to see him for the Canes this season. What are your thoughts on his role and what it'll be for Miami and kind of a lighter, obviously, like you just mentioned, lighter wide receiving room, so to speak, for the Canes? How do you feel about Toney's role this season?
Well, you can tell I'm a young man, but I did cover Roscoe Parrish when he was here, and I haven't seen a guy as jittery, as quick as Toney since Roscoe, quite honestly.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, you watch him in practice, and not only is he that fast and sort of really difficult to track down in space, but he has that Miami swag, right? He's from the area. He's not scared going against older players. As a matter of fact, I saw him get in older players' faces after he made catches on them in spring practice. So this is the kind of guy I think that coaches can trust on the field. A lot of times they don't want to put a true freshman out there, which is why you get a Tony Johnson, which is why you got a Keelan Marriott in the transfer portal, right? Guys that can play in the slot. You have Ray Joseph come back, who hasn't done much and bulked up a little too much, honestly, to be as quick as I think he should be. or as fast as he should be. But I think Tony is, along with Jojo Trader, those are the two most talented, physically talented guys in the receiver room. I don't know how you don't play both those guys a ton. I think Trader will start after playing not that much last year, other than the bowl game. And then I do think Tony will have a big role. But I do think Miami coaches value that experience, and I think that that could hold back some of his reps that'll go to the older guys.
And I don't think there's any problem with that. As a young guy coming up in college football, he's got a lot to learn. He's got to learn the playbook. The game itself is a lot faster, obviously. So I have no problem with the coaches maybe holding back on Tony's minutes, but I can't wait to see him for the Canes. Obviously, an electric player, like you just mentioned. Let's go over to the running game and the running backs. Obviously, Mark Fletcher is going to lead the room here. You guys got the North Dakota State transfer, Shamar Brown, as well. Matt, how do you feel about Miami's run game going into 2025? One thing I will know, I feel like Damian Martinez was a big part in Cam Ward's success, taking a lot of pressure off of Cam Ward, having that safety valve in the run game. How do you feel about Miami's run game going into 2025?
Well, people forget Damian Martinez was essentially benched at one point. It was the early middle part of the season because he wasn't that effective, and they came back and ran with a new purpose. But Mark Fletcher is a guy who 2 years ago showed he can be really, really effective. This past season, he still was really good, but remember, he wasn't even supposed to really be playing that much, coming off a major foot injury from the prior bowl game.
Yep.
He just recovered really fast and looked fine. And Jordan Lyle, to me, Jordan Lyle's the most explosive running back in the room, right? Mark Fletcher's got the power aspect, but Jordan Lyle's got enough power and he's got the speed. And we saw it last year. And I'm excited to see Jordan this fall. I'm hoping, there's a tendency among coaches to really bulk up running backs because the injuries just happen like crazy to running backs. It's actually probably the most injury-prone room. I mean, you think about it, right? The pounding those guys take is insane, which is why it's great they got Shamar Brown, because now they have three guys and all of them have power elements, but Shamar Brown really has a power element.
Yeah.
But I think Jordan Lyle is the most talented back. But I think Mark Fletcher is going to be the most consistent back. And I think this running backs room is going to be just as good as last year, despite losing Damian Martinez, if not better. Because the offensive line is going to be, in my opinion, better. You lose Jalen Rivers, but Markel Bell looked great and taking over for Jalen. And you have Ryan Rodriguez back, who can help out at either guard spot, maybe even start over McCoy at right guard. At left guard. And then on top of that, you have an upgraded center because James Brockermeyer is better than Zach Carpenter was. So you get these guys running behind those guys. You got Carson Beck, who's a really good game manager and obviously a big-time playmaker. I mean, these guys should be running for plenty of yards, especially with Mario. He wants to just pound teams into the ground, and these guys will get a lot of opportunities.
Absolutely, and can't go without mentioning Big Francis, potentially could be a top 10 pick in next year's draft. He plays his cards right. What are your thoughts on his potential going into the season?
Yeah, Mawanoa is a star. I think Pro Football Focus ranked him the second offensive lineman in the country, and with good reason. There's nobody he can't block, right? He gave up, I think, 1 sack and 500 reps last year, and I think and maybe a few quarterback pressure. Like there's just nothing that you can say about Francis that isn't just over the top. Like just pick out the greatest adjectives in human history and put them in front of his name, and that's all you got to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said, Matt. Let's go over to the defense. How are you feeling about the Canes defense going into 2025? Obviously, that defensive line got several names on that defensive line. I can't wait to see, including Ruben Bain moving back in that secondary. The secondary looks to be revamped going into this season. But how do you feel about the Canes defense going into 2025?
Last year was a disaster, and people wanted to blame Lance Guidry, but in reality, it was a combination of factors. Lance Guidry's defense is predicated on strong cornerback play. He didn't know how to run a defense that could sort of protect the cornerbacks because he's an attacking. That's his mindset: is attack, make the quarterback uncomfortable. Don't let him sit back there and hold the ball and find guys down the field, which is fine. No. Except for the fact that the Miami personnel at cornerback and safety was bad. It was bad last year, and there was injury problems that contributed to that. But now this year they really, and credit to Mario Cristobal, they really attacked cornerback and to a lesser extent safety in the portal to make sure those positions are shored up for a new defensive coordinator who runs an attacking 4-2-5.
Yep.
Obviously, there's differences in their schemes. For instance, Lance Guidry, which I always call him out for. I don't love defensive ends covering slot receivers, and there was teams last year that were able to get that matchup, which should never happen. There was a lot of confusion last year in the back end. You'd see players holding their hands up, looking to the sidelines, literally at the snap. Those things are unacceptable. And Corey Heatherman brings in sort of a simpler style of defense, one that's easier to understand, one that will not let teams create these matchups at will that are just awful, which is great. But he does have the similar 4-2-5 concepts of attacking, putting linebackers, in the box and attacking the offensive backfield and leaving corners one-on-one down the field. That has to happen in his defense for his defense to be successful. So the good news is guys like Xavier Lucas, even Ethan O'Connor that came in, those two corners are great. They got a guy, Keontae Scott, who they're moving back to nickel, who was terrible last year at outside, but 2 years ago was really good with the current Miami defensive backs coach at Houston, and he's now back at nickel. He'll be I think, really good. So there's more than enough at corner. My concerns on defense are safety, where they added Zechariah Poyser, who looked great this spring, but Jacksonville State, 1-year starter there after redshirting there. So I'm not quite sold there yet, but I like what I saw from him. And then probably Jacoby Thomas, who couldn't earn a starting job at Tennessee last year, wasn't going to get a starting job this year. He's probably going to start here, which, you don't love that background, but maybe he'll be good enough. I got to lay eyes on him this fall before I make a definitive yes or no on my thought on him. But Miami was desperate at safety. There just wasn't a lot of talent out there to grab. And then the linebacker core, they're hoping Mohamed Toure from Rutgers can be an answer. Supposedly he looks good. He'll be back, I think, at some point this fall off his torn ACL, and they're hoping he'll be back to the 92 sacks he had 2 years ago at Rutgers when Heatherman was his linebackers coach. And then defensive tackle, that's a major question mark. They brought in David Blay from a lower level program. He didn't do much this spring. They got Justin Scott, who's a former 5-star. They're hoping he can be really good, but he barely played last year as a true freshman. And they have Ahmad Moten, who's been mainly a backup, a couple of starts here and there, and he's just been okay. So the end position's stacked. End position is loaded. They'll get plenty of pressure on the quarterback from the end positions. But that up the middle, if you can't stop that run with those tackles, you got to bring the linebackers down and help out with that. And the safeties are questionable. I mean, that's going to be the concern. And that answer will come in game one, because Notre Dame is going to come in just trying to exploit that and see if there's a problem there. And if there's not, then I think Miami will have a really good chance of winning that game, even though they're underdogs in the early game.
No doubt. I can't wait to see it. Matt, my next question for you is, in terms of transfers coming in, and I'm talking transfers more than high school recruits, and let's exclude Carson Beck out of this because that's probably the obvious answer, but which transfer coming into Miami you think will have the biggest impact on the field this season? You got Shamar Brown, you got Xavier Lucas, who you mentioned. Which transfer do you think will have the biggest impact on the field for the Canes this season?
Yeah, well, I think certainly Xavier Lucas, with probably tied for second, Zechariah Poyser and Keelan Marion, because I think Marion can be a really explosive kick returner, which Miami has not had one of those in since Devin Hester, maybe? I mean, that's a long time ago. They probably have had others since then, but he's the one who stands out, right? So if they can, people don't put their eye on special teams that much, but Shamar Brown might return kicks, Keelan Marion returning punts, rather, not kicks, but punts and kicks, whatever. But those guys, if there's explosive ability in the return game, those are hidden yards, those are hidden points that can turn a game that winds up being a close game. So I think those three guys, just off the top of my head, I think will probably be the biggest difference maker. And then again, if the Rutgers middle linebacker, if he comes through, I mean, that's a home run if he's as good as he was 2 years ago. He's a monster.
Yeah, absolutely. He's reunited with his coach as well. So if he steps up and plays, I mean, that's going to be a pretty good thing for the Canes. Let's go into recruiting, high school recruiting here. I had Steve Kim, who's a Miami alumni, on the show to break this down. You guys landed Jackson Cantwell, number 1 tackle class of 2026, and he made headlines in choosing the Canes over Georgia. Came out and called out Pete Nakos and On3 and everybody else over this. What are your thoughts on this commitment for Miami? I think this is a massive, massive pickup for Miami going forward. Big get for Mario Cristobal and the offensive line coach down there as well. What does this commitment mean for the University of Miami?
What does it mean for Mario? Because this is what Mario loves to do. He got other 5-stars in the offensive line, right, with Francis Mauanoa, Samson Okunlola. Like, he loves offensive linemen. He would probably get a second mortgage on his house if it's not paid off. If it's paid off, a first mortgage,
right? To
get a guy like this. I mean, these are the guys he personally. Most coaches don't do this. He personally coaches the offensive lineman every single practice. He's right next to Alex Mirabal, who you can't really see because he's 5 foot tall, but He's right next to Alex Mirabal every single practice with the offensive line group. This is not a head coach who's wandering constantly throughout the practice from group to group. He's spending a lot of his time with the offensive line because he recognizes that if you have a great offensive line, that really can dictate A, the tempo of a game, B, the time of possession of a game, and C, how your offense can score points. Because if you can control the ball and score points on offense, that helps your defense rest. That helps give your defensive coaches time to scheme up. Hey, what are they doing to us? What can we do to fix it? It fixes a lot of problems. And kudos to him for getting the guys you need on board to be good, right? The Miami offensive line, if you look at any publication or ranking, they're in the top 10 in the nation for best offensive line rooms. And Mario Cristobal making it a priority and getting guys like this and paying the money that he has to and forming the bonds he needs to are the reason.
Yeah, absolutely. And you already brought up and you mentioned Alex Mirabal. He's been with Cristobal since his Oregon days. I got a chance to meet him when I was in high school. He was working out a buddy of mine, recruiting him back in the day. I think he's one of the best offensive line coaches in college football, along with Coach Cap over at Alabama, Bill Beatonball in Oklahoma. Discuss Coach Mirabal's impact, I guess, on Mario Cristobal going back to the Oregon days, and then Mirabal's impact on the Miami's offensive line.
Yeah, Mirabal's great. He actually began. He was a teacher, I think, at Columbus, and a football coach at Columbus. And there's a great story about he gets so pumped up. And he cares. He's not one of these coaches who, goes home and, yeah, we lost today. Oh, well, and eats his dinner and has a good night watching TV. Like he wants to do right for his players. He takes his stuff to heart. And when he was coaching, maybe it was in the JV. I don't know. I wrote about this a long time ago, but he was coaching this team at Columbus. Mm-hmm. And he got so animated that he threw his arms up in the air at one point, and his hand went through a window, and he had to go by ambulance to the emergency room in the middle of a game. But he wears his heart on his sleeve, and he'll tell guys, he'll get in their faces, and it's kind of funny when he does, right? Because you got a 6'9" Markel Bell who weighs 335 pounds, right? And you got a 5'0", 130-pound guy screaming at him, looking up at him. It's kind of funny to see, but these players listen to him like these are God's words. He knows offensive line technique. He knows what creates a great offensive line. He knows what a great offensive lineman looks like nobody else in the country. And that's why Mario Cristobal has never let Alex Mirabal go. If Alex Mirabal tried to leave, Mario Cristobal would have him cryo-frozen and keep his brain available to speak to the players. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well said, Matt. And don't get it twisted. It don't matter how big the offensive linemen are. Coach Mirabal going to get after him. He's always done that. He's been fiery, been that guy, just like you mentioned. So, man, great perspective, Matt, on Coach Mirabal. Let me ask you, final question for you. I can't thank you enough for joining my show here on this fine Thursday. Your expectations for Miami going into 2025, they're in a pretty, in my opinion, wide open conference with the possible exception of Clemson. Clemson's probably the front dogs. You got you guys, Bill Belichick and the Tar Heels. Who knows what they'll look like? Several other teams as well in the ACC. But what are your expectations for Miami going into 2025? Are they a playoff team? Is it playoff or bust for the Canes?
Well, I mean, I've been accused of being very negative by Miami fans because I try to tell the truth and not just – it's easy to say 12-0, right? And the Miami fans are like, oh, my gosh, we love you so much. Oh, I agree with you, right? Because Miami fans think they're going to win every game every single year. That's just how they are. That's how every fan is in the country. It's the preseason. Everything's great.
Yeah.
But in reality, I think the best case scenario, in my mind, realistically, is they split with Notre Dame in Florida, and then they lose one ACC game and wind up 10-2, which will be good enough to get in the playoffs. Okay.
Right. Yep.
I think that's what will happen. But if you slip up, for instance, I was looking at some of these other teams. Pittsburgh is being extremely undervalued. Pittsburgh has a really good quarterback, an amazing all-purpose running back, catches the ball like crazy.
Yep.
And one of the best linebacker corps in the country, and probably the best or one of the two best in the ACC. And nobody is giving them any respect. And that's a game in the season finale on the road, the end of November in Pittsburgh. A week after they're going to Virginia Tech and playing in Blacksburg in the cold weather. These teams get tired, man. And you got two back-to-back road games at the end of a long, grinding season. And we saw what happened against Syracuse last year, right? Mm-hmm. That scares me, right? But I would say 10 wins. I would say 10 wins is probably the bar. And I think 9 wins is more likely than 11, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. And let me ask you: do you look at Clemson as the top dog in the ACC, or who do you look at the ACC compared to Miami, and you compare them to basically?
Well, I'd be crazy not to say Clemson's the top team in the ACC. But you look at, like, as we were sitting here a year ago, and by the way, a year ago, I was saying Florida State was not going to be as good as people said, but I wasn't saying that they'd win 2 games. So everybody was wrong, including me. But I was saying this is not a top 10, top 20 team because they were being ranked so highly last season, but they lost everybody, right? That's what you need to look at a lot of times. It's not just that, the name of the team and what they did the year before. It's what did they lose? And that's why Notre Dame is so dangerous. They have so much back other than a quarterback. So if that quarterback question is answered, that team's going to the national title game again, and we got them in game 1. And we got 10 transfer starters trying to play together and figure things out in game 1, whereas they've got a lot of pieces back on defense in particular. Yeah. So anyway, that's another story. But yeah, I would put Clemson far and away on paper the top team in the ACC because they're returning everybody. And this is why, I don't want to get too long-winded, but people who have watched me on other podcasts or read my stories on CaneSport, whatever, I'm not a guy who's a fan of taking 20 transfers. I'm not a guy who's a fan of taking 10 transfers. Okay. And Mario did take 20. And the reason is what you see happening with Clemson and what you see that happened to Florida State. When you take a ton of transfers every single year, and Miami's starting 10 transfers this year. That's the truth. Look at our depth chart. It's going to be 10 transfers that are starting this year that are new transfers. When you do that, you don't necessarily know what you have. You might be great, right? Florida State took a ton of transfers and went 12-0 during the regular season 2 years ago. Yeah. Then Florida State took a ton of transfers the next year and won 2 games.
Horrible.
It can go either way. But Clemson does not take transfers. They take fewer transfers than anybody. The average transfer number for the top 5 teams in the country, I figured it out, is 6 per year over the last 3 years. That's the golden number because you need to get top guys, which I call free agents, that have done really well at top programs, spend the money on those 5 or 6 guys. Mm-hmm. And the rest of your guys should be coming back and should be better than the year before. And that's, to me, the magic formula, not bringing in 20 guys and starting 10. Now, it might work this year. I think it will work this year for Miami. But to rely on that year after year isn't great. And I think after this year, the way Mario's building the roster, they can take a lot less transfers because they should have these young guys that he's recruited are so good. And I'm hoping they get some opportunities to shine this year and then be even better in 2026 when I think Miami can compete for a national title. I think this year playoffs, I think next year national title competition, competing for the national title realistically. I think that's Matt Shodell's, I don't know what you call them, magic words.
Hey, that's well said. And so you said national championship for the Canes in 2026.
Competing for national title. I'm not saying they win it. I'm saying they realistically can compete for it. Yeah.
Who is your guy? Who are you promoting as quarterback? Do you like the young kid?
They're going to have to either. It's either going to be probably Luke Nickel, or I can't imagine Darian Coleman in year 1, or a transfer, right? I mean, imagine if they had Cam Ward on a team with a decent defense. That's a national title competing program.
Yeah.
So I think next year the defense will be even better than it'll be this year. The defense this year will be better than last year, but it's not going to be a top 15 defense in the country. It might be top 30, top 25. That would be good enough. Right. But I think looking a year from now, they can make it that. And then if you have, a really good quarterback, they should have some really good receivers that are young guys coming back, Trader, Tony, I mean, you name it. There's a bunch of guys. Elijah Lawson will be in year 3. He's going to be a star. Watch for that. Then the only thing you got to fix is the offensive line because they're going to lose their whole starting offensive line. So that'll be the key. But they have so many young guys like that. The plan's already there to have these younger offensive linemen be the starters next year. But that'll be in 2026, the question mark. If that offensive line comes through in 2026, I don't see why they can't be, a top 5, top 4 team by the end of the year.
Yeah, I agree with you. It all starts in the trenches. Mario Cristobal knows that. You guys got a great offensive line coach and Coach Mirabal. I agree with you 100%, Matt. I appreciate you joining my show on this fine Thursday, getting your perspective. It's been an absolute honor having you on my show. We'd love to have you on again during the season. Can't wait to see how the Canes are going to do this season. Matt, I appreciate you. Thank you for joining.
Sure thing.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. Have a great Thursday. Shout out to Matt, managing editor over at the CaneSport. Go check him out. Go check out what he does. He is the man when it comes to Miami Hurricanes news. Go ahead and check him out over at the CaneSport. I appreciate him joining the show, giving his perspective on the Miami Hurricanes. We got Carson Beck starting at quarterback. I've had several perspectives on the Miami Hurricanes. Talk about them. We know Matt Manchese is not a big fan of them, but I'm pretty optimistic. I will note, and he brought this up, it's all up to Miami's run game. If Miami can run the ball, they got 3 decent backs. I'm curious to see who will really take over as the premier back. One of them is a transfer from North Dakota State. 2 of them have been there in the room and done that. I'm really interested to see who takes over Miami's running back room, because if Miami's going to have success, if Miami's going to go and win 10 games like Matt just said, they got to take as much pressure off of Carson Beck as possible. That's the truth of it. And if they have a run game, like I mentioned with Damian Martinez last year for Cam Ward and Fletcher as well, really. But this year, the run game's got to take all the pressure off of Carson Beck if Miami is going to have the success that they expect to have. Chat, let me know in the chat below. How many games do you think Miami is going to win? How many games do you think Miami is going to win? Is Miami a playoff team? Ooh, so we've had Steve Kim on the show. He's awfully optimistic about the Canes. Let us know in the chat below what you think. Shout out to Joe Corp for tuning in. I appreciate you tuning in, Joe. In about a couple minutes, we got Alcorn State coach Leroy Frederick joining the show. We haven't had Coach Fred on in a couple weeks, and we got to talk the talk with Coach Fred. Man, I can't wait to talk with Coach Fred. We're going to discuss Coach Prime's press conference at Big 12 Media Days, and I got some other topics to discuss as well. Auburn fans are fed up with Hugh Freeze and his golf habits, and I can't wait to discuss that with Coach Fred as well. We're also going to discuss Russell Wilson and the Giants. I think they're going to be better than you think, and I'm going to break down why with Coach Fred as well. Folks, if you're watching, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and become a member. Pull the schedule up here, Joe. Give me a sec. I'll pull up the Canes schedule, and we can break it down here. Got Coach Fred here joining in about 2 minutes here. Man, see, I would love to know. I think Miami's win total off the top of my head is 9.5. Now, that's going to be tough. Let's break this down here and really dive into the Canes schedule. Joe in the chat's got 9 wins. We just had Matt Shodell with CaneSport give us 10-2. Let's dive into this and really break this down. So, make this bigger. They open up with Notre Dame. Oh, man. I think everybody is putting stock in Notre Dame when Notre Dame is a team that I got to see it to believe every year. I thought they were a great team last year, and I think they have probably the best running back, if not one of the best running backs in college football in love. But I got to see it with them. They got to reload with their quarterback. Riley Leonard was the heart and soul of that team. I give that kid a lot of credit. He led them to the national championship where they got last season. But I'm going to say Miami loses to Notre Dame. Ultimately, I really think if Notre Dame can run the ball, unless Miami's new defensive coordinator can all of a sudden just if that Miami defense 180s from last year, then Miami might have a shot. But I'm going to give it to Notre Dame there. Bethune-Cookman, Miami's going to beat them. Miami will beat South Florida now September 20th against the Gators. Woo! Oh, man. This is at Hard Rock down in Miami. DJ Lagway and Florida are a team I'm really high on. This is obviously a massive, massive, massive rivalry game. We got to see it last year, and we got to see Cam Ward really get after it. Let me know in the chat whether you think Miami beats Florida this season. Oh, man, I don't know. 2-1 right now I have for Miami, and I almost want to say they lose that game. I really do, because I really think Florida – Lagway are going to be formidable in the SEC, one of the better teams in the SEC, in my opinion. Let me know in the chat whether you agree or disagree with that. I got Miami losing to Florida. Now, Florida State, though, I think Miami kicks the crap out of Florida State. I smell the writing on the wall for Florida State already. Something tells me Florida State's in trouble. They have for me, the writing's on the wall a little bit for Florida State. I got Miami beating Florida State. Brom and Louisville at Hard Rock. I gotta. That's gonna be. My initial thought is to say Miami beats them like that. Now I sit here and I think about it. Brom and Louisville are tough as shit. I gotta see who their quarterback is. I haven't broken down their team too much. I gotta dive in who they have on defense. But man, that game was tough as shit for Miami last year. They ended up figuring it out, but. Brom and Louisville are no joke. That's going to be a tough game for Miami, but I'm going to give Miami the win on that. We'll say Miami 3-2 right now, or I guess that would make them, 4-2? 4-2 going into October 25th against Stanford. Miami's going to kick the crap out of Stanford. 5-2. SMU, Rhett Lashley. Oh, boy. I'm going to say Miami probably drops that one. 5-3. That's going to be tough for me. Miami will beat Syracuse. I got to see it, Fran Brown. You got another transfer quarterback. You trust a lot of transfer quarterbacks. You work with Kyle McCord to see if it works again. NC State, it'll be a tough game, but I think Miami will get it. NC State's got a pretty decent quarterback, but I think that'll be a Miami victory. Now, Virginia Tech, they got Drones back, the quarterback. I think their coach is on not the hot seat, but he's got a lot of pressure to win and win now. Virginia Tech, that's gonna be a tough game for the Canes. I'm gonna give it to Miami. I'm gonna give it to them. And then going to Pitt in the last game, gotta go up to Pitt, playing Arduzzi and Pitt. They got their quarterback Holstein back. You just heard Matt Shodell talk about it. That may be a tough game for the Canes, but I'm gonna be open to it. I'm gonna be all right with it. I'm gonna say Miami gets that one. So I said Miami drops 3 games. Joe, that puts them at 9 wins, but I'll be honest, Joe, and everyone else listening in the chat, the Virginia Tech, Pitt, SMU, and Florida, those are going to be tough games. And don't count out Louisville and Brom either. I mean, those are tough games. Ooh. Especially, Miami traveling up to the cold. I don't know. Let's see if Carson Beck could figure it out here, because I don't know. I got him dropping 3 games. Chat, let me know how many games do you think Miami's going to win. I got them dropping 3 games, but honestly, I could see a scenario where they win. I mean, they could go 7-5. Even like that's some of those teams. I think the back half of the ACC, like Virginia Tech's going to be better. I think Louisville is going to reload. I got to see with them. SMU is going to be formidable. They got the quarterback back. I think they lost Brashard Smith, though. That's going to be a huge loss for them. And by the way, Chiefs Queen of getting Brashard Smith. Watch the fuck out, because that's going to be their new running back. But SMU is going to be a tough game. I don't know. Miami could trip up and easily be down to 7 wins, though. But right now, my prediction in July, we're going to go ahead and say 9 wins. Yeah, Robert asked who about the cold. I don't know. Ask Asante Samuel about the Dolphins and Mike McDaniel, because Asante Samuel had a lot to say about Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins. But, folks, if you're watching, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and become a member of the BPM Army today. I appreciate you guys all watching and tuning in. On the other side, we got Alcorn State coach Leroy Frederick joining the show. And check out this commercial where Steve Kim, who I just mentioned with Matt Shodell, breaks down Miami, landing a commitment from number 1 2026 offensive lineman Jackson Cantwell. I'll see you on the other side, folks. Peace. Offensive lineman class of 2026 Jackson Cantwell is committed to Miami, and when some are surprised by, but I think it's a great move, great get for Mario Cristobal and the Canes here. Steve, let's start initially. What are your thoughts on this move? What does this mean for the Miami Hurricanes? And what's your thoughts? Go ahead.
I go back over 20 years ago when message boards were relatively new. Al Gore had just invented the internet. I remember the summer of 1999 that there were rumors percolating that Butch Davis had made inroads with a young man by the name of DJ Williams at a Concord de La Salle out in Northern California, number 1 team in the country. They didn't lose a game for like 15 years. Mm-hmm. It's a historically good program. And that's when Miami was still kind of rebuilding under Butch, coming off the throes of probation. But he was by far the number 1 player. At age 16 or 17, John Madden said if there's ever a high school player that can play in the NFL straight out of graduation, it would be him. Mm-hmm. So Miami ends up having a decent year, but Butch was unbelievable at closing. There's 2 things Butch Davis could do. He could identify where a young man was going to be physically in 5 years and project, and then he could also close. And when they got DJ Williams to actually come to Miami, that really marked a signal that Miami was once again a player on the national scene. And even though a couple years ago, Miami's had 5-star players like Francis Mawanoa, Samson Okunlola, Justin Scott last year, they've never actually had the number 1 player since DJ Williams. So this is big from a symbolic standpoint. And now you got to get him to be able to play. And I just think the funniest story, and it's been talked about a lot, is the NIL. Hey, guys, the NIL is a thing. Everyone's getting paid. And if you're a top 50 player, you're getting paid a lot. And I thought it was very interesting that the young man himself actually called it a slanderous narrative. Those are his own words, slanderous narrative, that I only went to Miami for the NIL. Let's not be naive. The NIL is a factor because money matters. But I think the key figure here that nobody's really talking about from a national perspective is our offensive line coach, Alex Mirabel. He's outstanding. He's one of the best in the country. He's the one that was the architect of Penei Sewell's development.
Yes.
And Miami the last couple of years has had some NFL draft choices. Jalen Rivers is the latest one. Sent a couple of guys that made rosters, Matt Lee and JVR Cohen. And then Markel Bell and Mawanoa, this upcoming draft in 26, will probably have their names called, I think, relatively early.
I agree with you. Absolutely. And I had the chance to meet Coach Maribel in high school. He was coming to coach up a guy, teammate of mine named Levi Rogers. And I think his, impact when it comes to developing offensive line talent, I don't think a lot of those really realize, because I think he's one of the best offensive line, coaches in college football. Throw him up there, Bill Beatenbaugh, Coach Cap over at Alabama, and several others. But I think his impact when it comes to developing players, you just mentioned Penei Sewell, several others. You got a kiddo down there in Miami they just brought in last year who's probably, like you just mentioned, probably going to go in the top 10. I think he's a hell of a player. But you brought it up. Jackson Cantwell calls out Pete Nakos and On3 Sports over their reporting of NIL and college football, and their reporting the situation. Steve, take a listen.
Schools that didn't win your services today, they'll throw money in there. They'll say this school got money whipped. When I've spoken to you, you said all you wanted your representation to do was to make things equal. What was the choice? Was there one bid that was higher than the other, or what do you feel comfortable talking about maybe giving your response on your side of this thing is that money ruled the day here?
Well, I think my response to it is it's not the same narrative people like Pete Nakos are pushing right now. I mean, I think there's just a false narrative that's why I'm choosing. And I think that, I think relationships won out with Miami. That was kind of what did it for me. I mean, they spent the most time with me. They put the most effort into recruiting me. I mean, I've got a lot of skin in the game with all these schools as far as getting represented by Drew and making sure that I'm going to be fairly compensated. And I think every school has done a good job with that and being accommodating with that. And I think that anyone who would say otherwise about how I've done my recruitment has been just misled.
Damn, I love it. I mean, it's honest and real. People that have a problem with it. This is the new age and day and age of college football. But Steve, what were your thoughts on Cantwell calling out Pete Nakos and On3 here? Surprising, but I'm with it.
Well, Jackson is a relatively, I would say, genius-level teenager. If you actually look at his ACT score, I believe as a sophomore he had already qualified. His two parents are Olympians.
33 as an eighth grader.
I think he's a highly advanced young man mentally. Comes from good stock. And I did find it interesting that he named out a reporter individually. Now, Nakos, look, I trust Nakos as a source. Nico Yemelivava. I know I butchered that name. He nailed that story.
Yes,
there were a lot of anger at him, but there was not a lot of derision in terms of did he get the story right. True. Here's where I think the Miami fans have a problem, and I think it's justified. To make it sound like Miami is the only program to pay 7 figures to unknown high school recruits across the board is wrong. There's a certain amount of programs in the NIL space that are at a different level, and they do it through either big boosters or a collective or a combination of both. The bottom line is this, and Coach Sanders, your guy, Coach Prime in Colorado, called it out faster than anybody, and he was more honest than any coach. He said, this is pay for play. This is pay for play, and it's not NIL, because the reality is there's less than 5 college football players, if they take off their helmets and they're in street clothes, if they walk down Times Square in New York, that anyone would recognize them.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the truth. This is pay for play, and Coach Sanders is now saying, I'd like to have a salary cap of some sort, because he understands where this is going. And Colorado right now at this moment may not be on that tier where they can outbid somebody for a coveted player.
back, folks, on this fine Thursday. If you're watching, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, become a member of the Bailey Price Media Army today. We've had a great show so far. We had managing editor for CaneSport, Matt Shodell, join the show to break down and talk all things Miami Hurricanes football and really preview the Canes season headed into 2025. And man, that was great having Matt on. Chat, let me know. What are your thoughts of it? What are your thoughts? How many games will Miami win? I've seen a lot of debates. You just had Steve Kim in a commercial there breaking down Jackson Cantwell. Miami landed the #1 tackle in the class of 2026. And without further ado, folks, our special guest for the second half of this show is here. Our main man, Alcorn State Coach Leroy Frederick joins the show. Coach Fred, what up? Happy Thursday, my man. How you doing?
I'm doing good, B. Same to you, man. Been a long time, brother.
Yes, sir. Been a few weeks, Coach. I was a little sick on the weather. Been dealing with some stuff. Now we're back. Can't wait for the season, Coach. Man, got a lot to talk about. I'll go ahead and ask you, since we've been talking Miami Hurricanes a lot on this show already. They got Carson Beck at quarterback. I think you and I have talked about this a little bit. But the Canes got Carson Beck at quarterback going into 2025, kind of in a revamped offense, so to speak. Kind of a lot of turnover. Matt Shodell, managing editor at CaneSport, just mentioned they're probably going to have 10 transfers starting this season. But Coach Fred, how do you feel about the Canes going into 2025? You confident?
Nah, I mean, B, I think people forget that each year the team is different. You know what I mean? I don't care. No team returns the same, right. And especially now in this day and age of what we're living in with college football. And I think the expectations might outweigh the talent that they have in the building. And, I can feel it. And I'm a Knoll. I'm not a Cane, so I'm not going to be just, rah-rah. But I can feel it being a situation of where that expectation is so far here, man, that the minute it starts to unravel, it don't just fall slow. It freaking goes quick. Yeah. And I can see that turning into a dumpster fire because they paid a lot of money for a lot of kids.
Oh, yeah, Coach Fred. And I don't know if you had a chance to look at their schedule, but they got kind of a tough stretch in the ACC where they got to go play Virginia Tech and Pitt at the end of the year. And then they also got to play SMU. And Louisville and Brom, I'm curious to see how they look there. Miami's got a pretty tough schedule. They open with Notre Dame, got to go play Lagway in Florida as well. I don't know. They have a tougher schedule. Realize, Coach, I don't know.
That's going to be telltale. And plus, everybody's saying Florida's better. Notre Dame has been creating a hype machine this offseason as well. But that first game is going to be a telltale of what's to come because, sure, they've been there since June. Carson Beck is coming off an injury. I think people forget about that.
That's true.
So to see what's going to happen to him when there are live bullets coming at him is going to be really interesting. And Notre Dame's, they return a lot of people on defense. But again, like I said, no team's the same, so it's not the same playoff team. But it's going to be interesting to see how Carson Beck reacts to when those bullets get to flying and being fresh off that injury.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt, Coach Fred. Man, Coach, I can't thank you enough for joining. We got lots of different topics to talk about. I already got people calling me out on Twitter about Colorado's 26 recruiting class, and now they have 6 kids signed instead of 5. So that's great. And Matt and I are actually going to have the 6th commit. His name is Xavier Payne. He's a 3-star offensive lineman in the class of 26. Matt and I are going to have him on the show tomorrow. We're going to talk to him, but I am still concerned about Colorado's class of 2026. I didn't change shit. I am still concerned. I saw Coach Prime at Big 12 Media Days. Coach Fred, we're about to talk about that. That's great. I really hope Coach Prime is doing better. It looks – I'm really concerned about it. That's all I'm going to say, Coach. But let's save it. We'll talk about Coach Prime and see you in a sec. People call me out on Twitter and shit. But, Coach, let's get into it. Let's talk Hugh Freeze and Auburn here because they got a lot going on, and I got to break this down to you. So, Coach, Auburn fans are fed up with Hugh Freeze and his golf hobby. Now, Auburn in recruiting right now is ranked dead last in the SEC in terms of recruiting in the class of 2026 with only 9 recruits signed. 4 of them being 3-star commits and 2 of them being 4-star, no 5-stars at the moment. But Coach Fred, Hugh Freeze logged 11 rounds of golf in the first 3 weeks of June, which is stunningly high for an SEC coach who you would expect to be recruiting and have some sort of, responsibility in the offseason here. You got investigative journalists looking into this, looking into Coach Freeze's golf habits. He was reportedly golfing a lot of days in the month of June, Coach Fred. Auburn fans are not happy. Coach Fred, what is your reaction to hearing Auburn fans upset with Coach Freeze about his golf habits? I will mention Lane Kiffin on Twitter poked fun at Coach Freeze. This is an unbelievable situation, Coach Fred. What are your thoughts on Hugh Freeze and Auburn, and then Auburn fans not being happy with his golf hobby or habit?
This is going to be breaking news on Bailey Price Media right here. Turn it up. Breaking news. Recruiting is no longer the same. He doesn't have to spend the same amount of time on the recruiting trail.
True.
If he's got the money that the fans that are being upset or being pissed with him, if they fork the money up, they'll be in every race at the end of it when it comes time to actually sign these kids and get these kids in an Auburn uniform. Mm-hmm. So, again, we go back to this thing. It comes full circle every time, every conversation, Bailey. If you think about it, it's not the same. So it's not like he needs to be out at camps. It's not like he needs to be on home visits, because everybody that's committed right now, in 2 months, Bailey, there's a chance that they may not be committed to the same place anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think I can't speak for Coach Freeze, but I think that's got to be down the lines of what he's thinking, that his collective is just gearing up, ready to step in and grab some of those guys. Now, the thing that they probably should be most upset about is, and it's no knock on the kid, but if Auburn is making a living signing 3-stars, that's the problem that they probably should be looking into.
Oh,
now,
yeah, Coach.
You know what I mean?
That's my point here. Like,
not his golf game. It's the 3-stars, a lot of people have those star-studded things lined up right now, but we all know by the time it comes, man, it can change, because you're going to have people transfer out. There's going to be people that transfer from places that you want to get, that you're going to have to free up space to get them into your program. So it's a different game. Now, I would advise Coach Freeze to, maybe change up his tee times a little bit. Not be out there at prime time that everybody can actually see, especially if it's not a golf tournament.
Hold on, Coach. I got to give you more information on Coach Freeze and his golf, because so the reason why this is getting so much pushback is because Coach Freeze is publicly logging his golf rounds, so to speak. Right now, USGA GHIN handicap rating of 7.4, meaning he's shooting in the low 80s and high 70s on a regular basis. And I guess Hugh Freeze is much better than the average golfer. In order to maintain a handicap in this system, GHIN, the rounds are logged publicly. And so that's why all Auburn fans know how much golf Hugh Freeze has been playing. And apparently he played a total of 11 rounds in just those first 3 weeks of June alone. So,
but even though, Bailey, I get it. He's the face of the program. But at this point in time, there's not a lot of time he can spend around the team right now.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just strength and conditioning program. It's assistant coaches who get a little bit of time, but it's mainly the strength and conditioning programs. And then, you lean on your captains. But, you can look at it one of two ways, man. Coach is gearing down for a tight camp, or Coach is preparing for his next job after this one to get on tour. So it's one of two ways how you want to look at it.
This is just ammunition to me, Coach Fred. It gives Lane Kiffin ammunition to go at. It's just, how Lane is. Lane loves clowning people on Twitter. Coach Fred, I don't know if you know, AJ McCarron and Trent Richardson have started a new podcast. I think it's called Dynasty Bama, And Agent McCarron ripped Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze had some comments on the House settlement and recruiting, etc. And Agent McCarron, who was a national championship quarterback at Alabama, ripped Hugh Freeze, saying Hugh Freeze is full of shit. I think Hugh Freeze is trying to do whatever he can to save face. He's starting to feel the pressure at Auburn. Going into his third year, not having the success that the alumni, the boosters, everybody donating a lot of money thought he would have by this point. I think he's trying to figure out and scramble on why they are not successful. The state of Alabama is ran by Alabama fans, Alabama alumni, whether you like it or not. Coach Fred, your thoughts on that too?
That's that rivalry talk right there, man. That thing runs deep, and you can see that, how deep that thing actually runs right there with AJ's comments, man. So that's that's kind of crazy. That's crazy, but it's gonna mount up, no doubt. All this stuff, if they get off to a 1-3 start, all this stuff will be coming up and be right back at in his face. So, Baylor.
Boy. Coach Fred, let's talk about it. They open up Baylor and Coach Aranda down there. I had the voice of the Baylor Bears, John Morris, on the show. We talked about Baylor. They're going to be formidable, Coach Fred. They got their quarterback, Sawyer.
They'll be a lot better. Yeah,
they're going to be formidable. I mean, that's not no pushover game now. Smitty's Ball State. I think
fighting Smitty's. They better win that one.
They better be. Major Applewhite in South Alabama. I expect them to win that too. But Baylor's going to be no joke. I mean, we can go and break down the schedule here. At Oklahoma, oh, man, that's going to be a tough – so Jackson Arnold goes back to Oklahoma. Jackson Arnold, Oklahoma transfer, is Auburn's starting quarterback. He goes back to Oklahoma.
They both need that
I
game.
don't know.
They both need that game.
So let's play hypothetical here. I'll give them the Baylor game, although I think it's going to be tough. Let's say they're 3-0 going to Norman on September 20th. I think Oklahoma beats them. I think Oklahoma having John Mateer, his OC Ben Arbuckle, got Jaden Ott, top running back in the portal, or one of them. I mean, I think Jaden Ott's a hell of a player. I think Oklahoma's formidable, and I think last season was tough because they were so damn up and down, Coach Fred. They look they looked horrible at times last season, and then they go and beat the hell out of Bama. So it's tough last season, but I think this season Coach Venables is under a lot of pressure to win. I really like John Mateer coming over. I really like him having his OC, and I like his OC as well. So I think Oklahoma wins. Coach, agree or disagree?
Yeah, and both of those teams need that game, and I think it favors Oklahoma because they're at home, and I think that's one that they'll definitely get. I think Oklahoma gets that one.
I agree. So Auburn drops their first game, going to 3-1. So they'll be 3-1 going to A&M, Coach. So that's a good start. Now this back half of the schedule's a gauntlet. But let's just rapid fire. At A&M, loss in my opinion. I think Texas A&M going to be tough as shit.
Yeah. I agree.
The loss. They got to bye, then go. They got Georgia.
If Georgia's anything like Georgia's been, that's a loss.
I agree. So that's what 3-0 to 3-3.
Yeah, they're even now.
They got Mizzou, and I think their quarterback is Bo Pribula, the Penn State transfer. So I would give it to Auburn probably.
But that's another team that's been up and down. They look really horrible, and then they have that one game where you're like, holy shit, okay, Missouri might be able to do something. So, but it favors Auburn because it's at home.
I gotta see it to believe it with Mizzou and their quarterback. I'll give that one to Auburn. I'm gonna say 4-3.
4-3.
Now. Arkansas is a team that I think is going completely under the radar, and I haven't said anything. I think I might have mentioned Taylor Green because I think he's a great player, and he played with several of my former teammates. Arkansas is going to be formidable in the SEC. Coach Pittman, they got a lot of pressure to win now, and so I think Arkansas is going to be formidable. I'm going to say 4-4.
Yes. Again, you got to go with the home team, and Arkansas is becoming sneakily very, very tough. And they play hard. They do play hard for Coach. So I'm with you on that one.
So I'll say 4-4. Let's go 4-4 going into Kentucky.
I think they get that.
I think they get that too. I mean, I gotta. Kentucky's questionable. Coach Stoops. We'll see. Vandy's to me is a loss. To me, I think Vandy will beat the hell out of them, and this is why Diego Pavia owns Hugh Freeze. He's 3-0 against Hugh Freeze, going back to his New Mexico State days, going back to Hugh Freeze's days at Liberty. Diego Pavia owns Hugh Freeze. Vanderbilt will win.
Ooh.
That's my take.
Ooh.
Agree or disagree, Coach?
I disagree, but I mean, you make a valid point there, but I disagree. Late in the season. Now, if this is early in the season, I think Vanderbilt, still believes, but by this point, I think they are kind of settling back in like they did last year. So, I got to give Coach Freeze the win on this one.
Man, I don't know, Coach. You and I will agree to disagree, but Coach Fred, let's talk about this massive game on November 22nd against Mercer. Gonna be a tough one for Auburn, isn't it, Coach?
You better win this one.
Yeah, I'll give him that. That'll put him at 6 for me. I think that'll put him at 6 for me and 7 for you, right? I believe.
Yeah, we're bowl eligible, baby.
Bama at the end of the year. That's
a must-win for both.
Yeah, but I think it's a loss probably, but it's also like, I don't know. I could see Auburn tripping up Bama just because it's a rivalry and just because it's DeBoer's second. I don't know. Could be.
DeBoer he can't drop this one. Now they're one that's going to be. They're one that I'm going to want to see at the beginning of the year because they're just as much pressure on Hugh is on him over there at Alabama.
Yeah.
So if Alabama gets off to a shaky start, man, does he even make it to this game?
Oof, yeah. That's the question now.
So another show, we're gonna have to pull up Alabama, and we're gonna have to go through that schedule on another show. But
yeah, we're gonna have we got a lot of schedules to break down, Coach. Because I can't wait for this freaking season. But going back to Auburn fans, I hope you guys can have some patience with Coach Freeze and his golf game. I don't know how much his golf game has to do with Auburn's struggles in recruiting. But I will say that it is concerning that they are last in SEC in the recruiting, and Coach Freeze seems so invested in his golf game. I don't know.
Are they where they're dead last?
Yeah.
Vandy's above them?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Vandy has 15 3-stars.
Wow.
Compared to 4 3-stars and 2 4-stars for Auburn.
Wow.
It's interesting. It's according to Rivals.
The collective is gonna get it right, man. I ain't worried about it.
Yeah. Man, well, Coach, let's move forward here. Let's go to the NFL here, and we'll go back to college. Let's Coach Fred, let's stick in college here. Let's discuss the topic of the hour since people are at me on Twitter and everyone's just up in arms about this. I wanted to break this down to you, Coach Fred, and give you my take on the Colorado quarterback situation. And obviously, Coach Prime spoke yesterday at Big 12 Media Day. But, Coach, I'm going to break down to you why. Coach Prime in Colorado must start Kaidon Salter this season. And I think it's going to be a mistake if they trot out the 17-year-old Julian Lewis week 1 against Georgia Tech, in my opinion. Kaidon Salter has been there and done that in college football, thrown for over 50 touchdowns, rushed for over 20, and he's been there and done that. Was just in the Fiesta Bowl with Liberty, played against Oregon a few years ago. Experience matters, Coach Fred. That's my take, and that's why I believe Colorado should start Kaidon Salter. Before I get your take, Coach, I want to show Coach Prime's comments on the quarterback battle in Boulder. Take a listen.
That room also looks great. You have 2 really talented players.
We brought both of them because I don't know which one's going to start.
My question to you is, would you be comfortable with a situation where both guys played?
Yeah. As long as they're doing their jobs and we're winning, we definitely want to continue to develop Juju, but Caden is unbelievable. Caden's off the chain. He's been there, done that. He can get the job done. I wouldn't have brought him here if I didn't trust him. But Juju is coming on around the mountain when he comes. And I love him. I love what he brings to the table. I don't know how it's going to play out. As long as it plays out, we can't lose either way with either of those two.
Coach Fred, man, let me say this before I'll get your take. I think Julian Lewis is a hell of a player, but I think experience in college football, especially when you have a massive week 1 opponent in Georgia Tech who's coming to punch you in the fucking face, I think experience matters, Coach, and that's why I think they should start Kaidon Salter initially and then sprinkle in Julian Lewis. That's my thoughts. Coach Fred, what are your thoughts on Colorado's quarterback competition?
I'm with you on that, baby. I think your trigger man has got to be a guy that's, if you have one that has experience, man, I think that gives you a leg up. and bringing someone in that has as much experience as he does. I think you've got to do that unless he's just god awful in practice. I think you've got to that gives you a chance to let the young kid settle in, take in all the the pageantry, everything that's going in, like you said, and then sprinkle him in from there. But to run him out there that first snap of offense, and Georgia Tech's feeling pretty good about the way they finished, so that stadium's going to be packed, going to be rocking. It's going to be like something something he's never seen. Why not go with the guy that's seen that at the biggest stage? And if he's not going to just hurt you, I think you throw him out there, you give yourself a chance, and then if you want to get the young guys some opportunities, then you find a series here, find a series there, and then if he's just clicking and rolling, and that's the guy you really want, there you go. But just to throw him out there, I just think that's a big question mark that you're putting out there your first game, and it's a lot of pressure on them as well.
Ton of pressure, Coach.
Yeah. So to me, I'm with you on that, B.
Yeah, and you got to think about Colorado and their offense in general. I hope they run the ball. I really do, because last season I really think Shodell could have had even more success on the field had they really leaned into the run game and done what a run game does, which is take pressure off the quarterback, in my opinion. Now they brought in Marshall Faulk as a running back coach. We talked about this. Andre Gerard, who played in the NFL. George Hageman played in the NFL. They got 3 offensive line coaches now. I really hope they're committed to running the football, because if they trot out Julian Lewis starting in week 1 and they're going to have the same offense as last year, they're screwed, because it ain't going to work. It just isn't. I can't. They got to run the ball, Coach Fred. That's my concern. I really hope that they lean into a run game and take the pressure off of either of these guys, because Caden Salter is a running quarterback. You can run speed option, RPO, all different types of stuff with him.
He's done it. Right. Yeah. He's done it.
So I don't know. I hope they lean into the run game, Coach Fred. That's my thoughts on
that. And I hope they've gotten better with their protection.
Yeah.
If you're going to do that, you want to make sure that you protect Juju a little better than you were protecting, the guy last year, especially being a true freshman,
And that's what I will say, coming from Matt McChesney, who's been there and seen them. They're a lot bigger, Coach Fred, a lot bigger. Got a lot of transfers coming in, a lot bigger, to say the least, Coach. Not that that translates, but nonetheless, they're bigger. And I think Colorado's offensive line at least needed that. One thing I will show before we move forward is Caden Salter's comments. He spoke with DNVR. They're doing a hell of a job covering Colorado. And Caden Salter spoke with DNVR and discussed what it's like in Colorado's quarterback competition being the veteran. Take a listen, Coach.
Or it's just I'm kind of the older guy in the room, but I guess I'm the vet. But just been there for Juju. I remember when I was a freshman coming in, not knowing a lot of the things, so I'm able to mentor him, and I feel like I'm a great mentor. So we're just going out and having fun. That's what football is, and that's what we're making it. We're keeping it simple and just going out, competing, and having fun while doing it. Definitely.
Yeah. Coach Fred, what are your thoughts on K-Salt's comments there?
Sounds a little different than Joe Flacco, eh? I think he's kind of welcoming the fact to try to the understudy. So that's big time, man, and that's gonna help that room tremendously if everybody feels the same energy throughout the room. I think that helps them, and it's definitely going to help the young guy get more comfortable in the situation. So I like it. Why not embrace it? You're in college, man. Embrace it. It's your brothers. Get ready to go to war, because you never know. You're one play away, and you got to make sure that guy's ready to go. Keep it going till you can get back. So I like it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree there. Colorado, I think Colorado rolling out Caden Salter is the best move. I think rolling the 17-year-old, no knock on Julian Lewis at all, but I think rolling him out there week 1 against Tech is going to be tough. Like Georgia Tech is coming. They got Haynes King. They got their running back. They're going to be tough. So that's all I got to say. Chat, Colorado Buffaloes fans, let me know in the chat whether you agree or disagree. I'm a Colorado's starting quarterback competition, Coach. Let's move forward, Coach Fred. I wanted to talk to you Final topic here before we get out of here. If you're watching, folks, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, become a member. I appreciate all you guys in the chat. Roberto, Daryl Hopkinson, all you guys who always support BPM Live. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Coach Fred, I wanted to discuss something with you and get your take on something. And I don't know if you'll agree with this or not, to be honest with you. I haven't talked too much New York Giants football with you yet, but I have a take about the New York Giants that I'm curious to get your take on. So Russell Wilson is seen working out with his Giants receivers, Malik Neighbors, Jalen Hyatt, and several others as well. I think the Giants are going to play spoiler this season and really, really cause teams a lot of problems. I think their defensive line with Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and several others Dexter Lawrence. Keep going. Their defensive line is going to give people problems. Russell Wilson is experienced, been there, done that. I really think Brian Daboll is going to put him in a position to win. I think Brian Daboll and the Giants and their GM Joe Schoen have no choice but to win 8 games, or they're probably gone. Now, I get that they drafted Jackson Dart, and probably gives Daboll a little bit more leash, but I think the Giants need to win now, and I think having Russell Wilson and that impressive defensive line is going to do wonders for the Giants. And them playing spoiler this season, in particular to teams like the Commanders, who they open up with in Week 1. Coach Fred, how do you feel about the Giants going into 2025?
That's a loaded quarterback room. And, the thing that I wonder, Bailey, with that room is how much wiggle room does Russell have, right, being that they drafted, Dart, and they also have my guy there as well. How much wiggle room are they going to give him before, they say, hey, let's turn it over to the future, take our lumps, and let's get better with our young guy. If Russell comes out and stalls, or has a tough time, or do they go to Jameis? And we know Jameis can play, but Jameis also can turn it over at an alarming rate. So do you want Jameis turning it over, or do you, want Jackson Dart to grow and learn? But that picture there was really alarming to me.
This is insane. You got Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau on the other side, and then Dexter Lawrence, who, by the way, I think voted best D tackle in the NFL. Well-deserving, great player. Him and Vita Vea are probably up there best defensive tackles.
You got to figure, you really need to figure out who's on that right side of that line, and I hope that's not guys that are, veterans or guys that have been around for a while, because that was 1, 2, 3 to the quarterback. You know what I mean?
Commanders, I really hope you guys solved your offensive line problems, because the Giants are coming. The Giants, that's why I said they're going to play spoiler, Coach Fred, because they're going to give people headaches just with this defensive line. Their defensive secondary isn't too bad either. They got several guys in the defense. They're going to be they're going to be all right. People are sitting here saying they're going to be horrible. Hey, do your homework. They're going to be all right, Coach.
It looks good on paper, no doubt about it. Looks good on paper. But, again, you hope that they've gotten that issue fixed, because that was in the indication of what they got going on. That's going to be tough. Russell's going to be running for his life, and then you might as well go ahead and put Jackson in there, who we know has wheels, can move a little bit better, and see what we get,
Yeah, absolutely, Coach. Absolutely. Sticking on the Giants here, I wanted to show Russell Wilson talking about Malik Neighbors' character as well. Coach, take a listen to this.
This a little bit about your conversations with Malik. You said you've been chatting with him a little bit. What were those like? What do you see from him? How can you bring out the best in him?
Yeah, he's an explosive athlete. Just his ability to make plays. I love Malik, man. Just watching him and his personality on the field, his demeanor. I watched this one clip. I was watching a bunch of plays of him, and he caught this one catch against the Commanders on a shallow cross in the 3rd down, and he cut back inside, got another extra 20 yards, got hit pretty good. He kind of laid the boom, but vice versa, and he got up right away and just was celebrating, excited about the 1st down, and just move on to the next play. Just the competitor, the warrior that he is. There's a lot of guys like that. That same play, I noticed that Theo was blocking down the field and making a huge block, and those kind of things is what championship football looks like. And obviously, listen, he catches a screen against the Colts and takes it 80 yards, 70 yards. That's pretty special. There's only so many human beings in the world that can do that, and he's one of them.
People give Russ all his shit for being a cornball. I don't care. I grew up watching Russ as a Seahawks fan. Give him all the shit you want. Russ is consistent. I get his time in Denver wasn't what everyone expected it to be. No shit, and he probably got paid way too much money. But now I think in this situation, you got to remember, he led Pittsburgh to a playoff appearance last season and improved their passing game. No matter what people want to say, him coming into Pittsburgh improved their pass game tenfold since Ben Roethlisberger. Like, I mean, they hadn't had anybody like even come close to Ben Roethlisberger until Russ came there. So that's just my take on it. People giving Russ all this shit. Coach Fred, what are your thoughts on Russ's comments on Malik Neighbors, and then thoughts on Russ's antics as a human being?
I like the comments, man. That's what you do, man. You build up your guy. That's going to be your go-to guy. You want to make sure he feels good about it. The connection you guys are starting to build. You want to make sure that you put as much confidence in him as you can. But it's funny you said that, because the whole time I'm hearing what he's saying, but then I'm reading in real time all the different funny comments that they've said about Russ and and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, man, how do you take it serious? And then he makes the comment, only a few people in the world can do that. And I'm just like, okay, Russ, I get it, but maybe you're going overboard with that one. But again, it's shooting confidence into a guy that you're going to be working with, and that you hope that you can put a lot of trust in to make you look good. So I get it, man. He's a veteran, and that's definitely a veteran move.
Yeah, that is true. Coach Fred, they open up against the Commanders, and they're 7-point underdogs. And I think everybody and their mama is going to be betting the Commanders in that game. And I don't know. Like I said, I think the Giants are going to play spoiler, and I think it starts with Week 1 against the Commanders. I don't know how you feel about that, Coach, but I see it. They're going to play spoiler, Coach. They're going to really piss some people off. You look at their schedule late in the year. They close out with the Cowboys. They got to play J.J. McCarthy in Week 16. Like, they're going to piss some people off. Play spoiler, I think, in the later year. It's tough. They're not going to make. I mean, it's going to be tough for them to make a playoffs unless. And I mean, maybe a wild card, but it's going to be tough for them to make playoffs. But I think their ceiling is 8 games. They need to win 8 games, and I think them playing spoiler is their best bet. That's my take.
Not that first game, baby.
Not that first game?
Not that first game.
Oh, man, Coach, I don't know. We'll talk betting when we get closer to the NFL season. We still got a ton of college and stuff to get there, but
definitely.
Coach, I wanted to show something as we close out of here, and I can't thank you enough for joining my show here on this fine Thursday. We were talking Big 12 Media Days and Coach Prime's press conference at Big 12 Media Day, but I wanted to bring it back to last year's Big 12 Media Day and show this infamous clip of Oklahoma State coach Mike Gundy talking at Big 12 Media Days last year. Take a listen, Coach Fred.
And it was based on body weight. Not to get into the legal side of it, but I thought really 2 or 3 beers or 4. I'm not justifying what Ollie did. I'm telling you what decision I made. Well, I thought I've probably done that 1,000 times in my life. And it was just fine. So I got lucky. People get lucky.
Coach Fred, I just had to show that. We were talking Big 12 Media Day. Mike Gundy's a fool. JB is not a fan of him, as you know. And I don't know. I feel like we had discussed Mike Gundy's comments at one point, I believe, on the show, or talked to Mike Gundy at some point. So I just had to show that with you. That was Ollie Gordon. If people don't remember, that was Mike Gundy talking about Ollie Gordon's DWI arrest. But Coach Fred, how do you feel about the Cowboys, Oklahoma State going into 2025? I mean, I don't know how Mike Gundy ain't on the hot seat after last season.
Yeah, I don't either. That was about to be my comment. I don't know how many years he's got on his contract. I don't know what that buyout looks like, but it's got to be deep, so deep that Boone Pickens is not really willing to pay it because they were horrible last year. And, I didn't see much help head that way via the transfer portal.
Yeah, not really.
So, again, he may be drinking, 1, 2, maybe 3, depending on his body weight. After every game, man, to drown the sorrows. But Bailey, his program is one that you can point to, man, that will tell you exactly how much college football has changed. Mm-hmm. Because they used to be able to still, a couple players here, a couple players there, and be decent.
Right.
With realignment, with the portal, with the collectives and things like that, that's just not really a sought after program that kids are wanting to go to, as to where, some kids maybe not have had a choice to go there. That was their biggest offer, so to speak. And then I think he's done a lot over the last couple of years to where, that's just not a destination that a lot of kids want to go,
I think that potentially, and I have never met Mike Gundy. This is just based on what I've heard about the man. I think he may have trouble relating with my generation, so to speak. And I think that could be a problem. I don't know. I think when you see stuff like that optically, it's like, I don't know. If I had a kid going to college football, I wouldn't send my kid to Oklahoma State. I don't know, just based on what I've heard and seen, right? I don't know. That's my take, though. Interesting, Coach Fred. Coach, I can't thank you enough for joining my show here. You had a show yesterday, right? I watched a bit of it. Kind of tell the viewers what you got going on, who you had on your show yesterday, because I thought it was great, and I want my viewers to go check it out.
Yeah, man. I had Aaron James, the head coach of Tuskegee University, prestigious HBCU program. I had him on yesterday talking about his program, talking about the transfer portal, how it's really turned Division II football into something different. Yeah. Their games, considered their money games, how that affects them, what goes on the D2 level when we're talking about the schedule and, that kind of thing. So, we had a good conversation with him, man. And, D2 is trying to figure it out, man, while everything else is, moving ahead. Like they just had a kid, his best kid, not last season, the season before, Louisville came and got a Meeks receiver. So the kid goes from Division II, HBCU Division II, to starting receiver at Louisville. And as he said, he was helpless. There was nothing he could do about it because of what they came in and offered the kid. And, it's not just Division I, it's not FCS, it's affecting all of college football. And that's one of those things that, me and him had a chance to talk about, and expansion, moving up, trying to get an opportunity to compete, So it's a good show, man. We are doing that every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Central on our YouTube channel, Common Man Podcast. Yes, so if you get a chance, man, guys, go over, like, share, check out some of the past ones. We're gonna have to get Bailey to come talk about the football out there. He's not out in Eastern Washington anymore. He's in the Tennessee area.
Yeah, I'm out here on the East, Coach. Anytime, Coach, holla at me. I'll talk about any team. Love to hop on. And, folks, all you guys watching, go check out Coach Fred on the Common Man Podcast. He does a hell of a job every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Central. Go look it up. Go on YouTube, type in Common Man Podcast. You'll find Coach Fred. He's at Marquise Pouncey and all these crazy guests on. You got to go check out Coach Fred on the Common Man Podcast.
Appreciate it, guys. Make sure you do that. And anytime, Bailey, man, let's keep it rolling.
No doubt, Coach. I appreciate you joining. Appreciate getting your insight. I love talking about Hugh Freeze's golf game with you. And, Coach, love to have you back on again. I'll reach out to you offline. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Shout out to Coach Fred, Alcorn State assistant head coach, for joining the show. My main man. Always love having Coach Fred join the show every week here on Bailey Price Media Live. He's the main man. Go check him out over on the Common Man Podcast. Man, this has been a great show here on this fine Thursday, folks. I appreciate you all tuning in. If you're watching, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, become a member of the Bailey Price Media Army today. We need more members here. We're trying to grow the community here, get the community even bigger here as we get closer to the season. So if you'd like to become a member of the BPM Army, help support the show here, I just dropped the link. Go ahead and become a member of the Bailey Price Media Army today. And we will be live here definitely next week, Tuesday and Thursday. As always, we always got special guests here on Bailey Price Media Live. But we may do a special weekend show. I got some stuff I want to talk about, so stay tuned for that as well. And stay tuned to all of our videos, all of our episodes that come out every single day. So, folks, hit that like button, subscribe, become a member. This has been a great show. We had managing editor for CaneSport, Matt Shodell, join the show. We had Alcorn State coach Leroy Frederick join the show. Man, what a tremendous show. We'll be back next week. We're going to get some serious special guests on the show that I think you all really, really like. I appreciate you all tuning in, and I will see you guys soon. Thanks for watching. Peace.